I am a clinical nutritionist, have my master's degree in clinical nutrition. I started out I like to say my first life. I worked on Wall Street for about 13 years in equity sales and trading. That was my passion. I loved it. I was on a trading floor. It was exciting, energetic. It was awesome. Then I had kids in my mid 30s. So that sort of changed my focus a little bit. I didn't want to go back to that lifestyle, but I always worked out. I always exercised and I always lifted weights. And I decided to make a business out of it. And a friend of mine who owns some corporate gyms said, why don't you just get your certification, come and teach a few exercise classes at lunchtime for me and just make a little side money. And I'm like, yeah, you know what, that's not a bad idea. And I did that. And then it just sort of became this, people started asking me to personal train them. And then people started asking me if they want how to lose weight. And I was also a competitor in the NPC. I started at 42. I'm 55 now. But I started at 42 competing in figure. And I did that for about 4 years, turned pro. And then I competed as an IFBB pro for probably another 5 years. And then my last show was 2019. But that just opened up a whole new world to me of meeting other competitors, helping people get to the stage. I do still have that as part of my business. I have a little side hustle within my business of helping competitors. I've been doing that for a while because I love it. I do judge NPC shows and I MC NPC shows. So I'm still in the sport. I just don't have to do all the dieting and the cardio to get on stage. Now I can just either MC a show and I can be on stage or I can be at the judges table. But it's just really been a fun journey. And I've worked with women, I've worked with men, I've worked with families, kids, young girls dealing with eating disorders and just learning how to eat right, graduating from college. And I still do that, but my business primarily focuses now on that midlife woman who's in that 40, 50 and over space, that's going through perimenopause, that's having a hard time losing weight, having a hard time sleeping, not understanding what's going on, a little anxious, a little brain fog, a little, just lots of different things thrown in the mix. So it's become a passion of mine just because I'm in it myself. So I've started doing all this research and blood work and screenings and things on my own self because I'm like, I'm not aging like this. Like I want to stay like this as I age. So I've done a lot of research on it and I've created a program called Midlife Mastery and I teach women all these things. So it's just really evolved and it's really fun, as you know, with goals and business to just keep evolving and growing and transforming yourself or reinventing yourself so that you stay relevant and you can help people.
Did you find that when you really started getting more into fitness and that side of stuff, that your brain worked that way as well with the fitness sides as well as just obviously from a financial aspect, you're working with percentages and you're working with, small changes and you're working with little, statistics and things. But in health and fitness, it's very similar, at least in my experience. Did you find it was similar for you? Are you a personal trainer, online fitness coach, or gym owner on the verge of burnout? Are you wanting to grow your fitness business but can't add more hours to your hectic schedule? Introducing Trainer Revenue Multiplier, the premier wealth creation system for fitness professionals that helps you earn more and work less. Visit www.trainerrevenuemultiplier.com today to schedule your free business accelerator session. If you're serious about taking your business to the next level, schedule your call today.
It is, yeah, I definitely did. And it is similar because, everything in the financial markets is constantly changing and evolving, and there's new products and there's new things that come and new ways, new trading, new vehicles of investment vehicles. And the fitness industry is the same way. There's always like new technology, a new way to do things. Like, don't do it this way now, do it that way. Or it's, there's so many nuances now to the health and fitness industry. And, some of it is probably BS. You see a lot of stuff that's like, come on. But I mean, there are a lot of really good people I follow that I respect, that I listen to, and are always finding new nuances and things that we didn't know before. So,
yeah. And along those lines, I mean, there's definitely, I feel like at some level, there's always going to be great marketing in any industry, and maybe not back to always buy great products or great, services, whatever. In the health and fitness industry, as well as the financial industry, certainly you could give out examples for both, but is that something that you are wary of going into it? Or did you just kind of dive all like, head over heels for this, man. I love this new thing. I'm willing to try anything, or I'm willing to just experiment. How did you really handle getting into this new field where you might not have a ton of experience or a ton of knowledge base with it?
I think I just kind of looked at it at the beginning because I was a mom and I had little kids, that it was just a way for me to make extra money to pay a babysitter or get a manicure, things, very simple things. So I don't really think I thought about it any larger than that. I was married, I had two little kids, that was my priority. And this was just something fun that I could do that was not taking care of people. I mean, it's taking care of people, but not, little people, like older adult people. But so I think I just was going with the flow, quite honestly. I didn't really have any ambitions with it. I just was enjoying it and it was fun and people were coming to me and I didn't have to do anything. So it was just kind of unfolding. But in 2017, when I got divorced after almost 25 years of marriage, that's when I was like, okay, we need to turn here and make a living and make this a career. And that's when I hired, Matthew Park.
Yes.
That's when I hired Matthew Park in 2018, March of 2018. And I worked with him. I've been with him since then. And it's been this amazing journey that, I've worked with him. I've worked with other coaches in here and there too, in between, just that have different fortes, different strengths. But for the most part, Matthew has been the one that's really kept me pushing and going to the next level, even when I didn't want to. He'd be like, you have to do this, like, let's go. So, how you push back a little bit, like, I don't know about that. And he's like, no, this is what we're doing. So
Yeah.
but I attribute a huge part of my success to him.
There's always a little bit of that fear and that apprehension, which I think is completely natural, but overcoming that, I think, is a, the sign of someone who is willing to, just kind of put themselves in that uncomfortable position. But for yourself, I want to kind of, just for a few minutes here, talk about the bodybuilding side of things, because you
Sure.
did mention that you got into this space of fitness and health and that kind of thing. And it wasn't like, it didn't take over your life initially. It wasn't like this thing that was bigger than it had to be because, of the other things in your life. But where did the push then come for the bodybuilding side? Because as, many people know that, competitors especially, that is a huge commitment. It's time and money and all this other stuff. So where did that idea and then being like, okay, let's just try this come from?
It's funny because it came from, I was in the gym and I go to a few different gyms, but I have to give a little shout out to my favorite gym, the Super Gym in New Haven, Connecticut. I don't know if you've ever been, but it's excellent. And then I also work out at Equinox here where I am in Fairfield County, Connecticut. And someone had just said something to me one day, like, oh, do you compete? And I'm like, no, I don't compete. And then it kind of got me thinking a little bit, like, what are they talking about? So then I started looking into it. And I went to a show. My husband and I at the time went to a show together. We went and watched an NPC show. I don't remember which one it was, but it might have even been like a Fitness Atlantic or something, which is another federation. But anyways, we went to a show and the figure girls were in the heels and the whole thing. And I remember just leaning into him going, there's no way I would ever do that. I couldn't even walk in those shoes. And he was like, well, he's like, you look better than all of them. You should do it. And then I sort of just let it go. And a few months went by and then I really started to think about it. And I said, you know what? I think I want to do it. I just think I want to try it once. And I hired a coach. I found a coach online. I just very random, just searched, found a girl. She helped me, and I did my first show. It was Bev Francis Atlantic States in 2010. 2010. It was in New York City, and I think I did okay, but I didn't have a big class. Maybe there were like 3 or 4 of us, so maybe I placed third. But it was one of those things where you get off stage and you're like, oh, I really want to do this again. Like, I want to win. Like, why didn't I win? You try to find out why and do things better and start changing your body. Like, do I need more shoulders? Do I need more legs? What do I need? And it just became this thing where I just decided I was going to keep trying it. And after every show, I would try to get some feedback to see what I needed to do to improve. And I remember one of the coaches or one of the judges down in the Pittsburgh area, Gary Udit,
Yeah.
he ran a seminar one day that I went to. And he just said, you don't need feedback from judges. You don't need this. You don't need that. He goes, if you want to know how to win first place, just look at the person that won first place and emulate that. I always remember him saying that. And it's true. It's like, look at the winner. What do they have? And I just did that. And I just kept at it. And I really enjoyed it. It was just, I was always excited to diet. I loved cardio. I loved working out. It was great to watch your body transform. And I just decided that I wanted to turn pro, but I wasn't even aware of turning pro when I first started. It was just like doing the competitions, and I wanted to win. And then I realized that there was another level. So, and when I realized that, I started doing national shows where you could win your pro card. And I did a lot of them, placed last a lot. Very frustrated, but then you start to like eke up. It's like, oh, I'm 10th, I'm not 16th, or I'm 8th now and I'm not 10th, and I knew I was going in the right direction. So I just kept going, and I did eventually turn pro, and I had a lot of fun with it. I knew I'd never go to the Olympia. I mean, I was a masters competitor, and I did some of the open classes, and I did well, but it was just a goal, and I think it was a personal success, a personal win. Like, cool. I'm an IFBB pro. This is cool. I'm in a league of really elite athletes, and
Yeah.
even still, sometimes I look at my trophies and my pro card, and I'm like, okay, you got to remind yourself. It's been a while. In the beginning, it took a long time for the effect to wear off. And now I turned pro in 2014, so it's almost 10 years ago, but which is crazy. But sometimes I'm like, you're an IFBB pro. I'm like, I am.
It's so unique compared to a lot of other sports out there.
It really is, because it's all encompassing, and it's such a solo sport. It's just you, and you just have to live a certain way. It's all encompassing, but I did it with my kids were little, like 8 and 10 when I started. So, but they were cool. They were always into it, and I'd come home from a show and they'd be like, "Did you win?" Or I'd leave my trophies on the table, so when they wake up in the morning, they'd be like, "Oh my God, did you win?"
That's cool. I think it is so unique. And you mentioned Gary Udit there, and he's been on the podcast. And I think
Okay.
it goes to show that somebody like that will give that kind of advice because he's been around the sport so long. I
Mm-hmm.
think, of course, you're going to have like general advice that you give to anyone. It's just asking in a general way. But for somebody to have that advice that can say that and mean it and be confident in what they're saying, it really goes to show that they have like that they do have that much experience and they do have that much knowledge about what the sport is and how to win in it and all those kind of things. I think it's cool that there's people out there like that. And are you a personal trainer who wants to scale and grow your business online? Have you been coaching online for years, yet don't know how to incorporate online into your current business model? Introducing Trainer Revenue Multiplier, the premier wealth creation system for fitness professionals that helps you earn more and work less. Visit www.trainerrevenuemultiplier.com today to schedule your free business accelerator session. If you're serious about taking your business to the next level, schedule your call today. When you did start to compete and maybe even start to win and, maybe even get your pro card, all those different ways of like feeling accomplished. And to me, it's one of the most interesting aspects because you're putting yourself through this really hard thing. Did you start to feel like you were growing more confident, or do you feel like you were bringing confidence into bodybuilding, or where do you feel like that confidence was really coming from?
I think the sport was giving me confidence because I, in off season is really when you do all the hard work, really. I mean, dieting down is hard, but the work is done in the off season when you're eating and training and being really specific about what you're doing, not missing a day in the gym. I think sometimes people don't think that. They think, oh, they're off stage and it's like, all right, cool, I'm done. But that's really when the work begins if you stay in the sport. So I think it gave me a confidence in that respect, that I knew that if I didn't do the work and I got up there, I'd be with people that did do the work, and I wanted to belong there. Like, I was confident that I belonged there, and I knew that I was doing what I was supposed to do. So I think it's almost twofold. Because you inspire yourself, you give yourself that confidence, like, yeah, I'm doing this, and you're working hard, and at the end of the day, you left no stone unturned, kind of thing. And then when you get into prep and you diet down, you're like, you see what work you really did do in that time that you were off. And then you get on stage. It is a whole, you have to exude confidence when you're on stage too, because I judge shows, so I see a lot of competitors. I judge a lot of regional shows, but I have sat on the panel at some national shows like Universe in Teaneck, New Jersey, a couple of times. And you can tell when someone's really nervous and they're not confident and they're unsure versus someone that has been practicing their posing, knows how to move, they've done the work in the off season. You can just tell. So you have to exude that too. You got to bring it to the game. And I think the stage really gives you that, because if you don't, that sport's just going to eat you up. And I've worked with a lot of competitors, and even myself, I've been last, and I've worked with competitors that it didn't go the way they had hoped. And I've seen it crush people, but I've also, and I have experienced that myself when I haven't placed where I wanted to. It does get to you and it makes you upset. But then I also learned by doing it enough that, okay, all right, this is what happened. What do we have to do? What do we have to do to be better? Like what's the next game? Are we doing another show? Or are we going right into off season so that we can make the improvements? It's a mindset and a confidence.
Yeah. As a judge and someone who's, been around the sport, do you feel like you can also tell when somebody is just like maybe falsely confident or even maybe overconfident? Like, is that kind of an energy as well?
You see that. You definitely can see that sometimes too. And I would probably say more in some of the men's classes. Sometimes you see it. They're like, it's like, all right, dude, calm down a little bit. But it's, I guess everyone has to have their fun with it too. So I think sometimes they do things that are a little bit not like, it's not within the posing, or they do extra things, or they act a certain way, or but yeah, I think at the end of the day, especially on the regional level, most people are kind of nervous being up there, and I think they're just trying to do their best.
Yeah, trying to survive it in a way, kind of. I feel like it's your ego trying to survive too.
It is for sure. You have to go up there and really. My coach for the entire time. Do you know Chris Tuttle?
I've heard the name, I think, but not.
Okay. So Chris, he's pretty big in the world of bodybuilding. He's a pro himself, but he was my coach the entire time from 2014 on. And he always used to just tell me, he was never concerned about placing. He would always say, we're prepared. We expect nothing, but we're prepared to win. So he used to always say that to me before I'd walk on stage. Expect nothing, but we're prepared to win. And I like that, because you don't know what's going to happen when you get up there. I mean, you might win, but you don't know who's going to show up. I mean, you don't know. It's just, and everybody comes with their A game on the national level. Everybody looks good. And when I would be on stage with 30 women, 35 women, and that's in a master's class, and everybody looked fantastic, and there's like double lines on each side of the stage, and you're in the back, and you're like, oh my God, who's even going to see me back here? So it's intense.
To me, it's just crazy how much is involved in that process.
And I've sat at the table with Tyler when he judges. At one of the Universe shows that I judged, and he's fast. Like he's fast. Like the girls are walking off stage, and I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even get some of their numbers. And then after a couple classes, I caught on to his speed. But yeah, he's good. They come out, he moves them, pulls them off, calls them out, move them, turn them, place them, and off. And I'm like, he's really fast.
Do you think it's a lot of looking at what is wrong versus maybe what is right, and then going from there?
I think so. I think that I know for me too, when I judge, like when people come out and they're not dieted down enough, or they just look like they're not excuse me, they're not ready. It's like right away, okay, they you don't even consider them, not to be mean, but
yeah,
it's like they go to the side, and then you look for the people that come out, and you're like, oh yeah, and those are the people that you pull out and focus on, and the other people that you're like, oh, they could have dieted for another 2 months, or maybe it was just some kind of a goal, and they just, a lot of people just put suits, men and women just put suits on and get up there, and you're like, did anybody even diet or practice posing? I mean, you do on the regional level more, not obviously national level, you don't see that, but on the regional level, you do see a fair amount of that. And, I don't want to judge people. I mean, I don't never know what someone's motivation is, right? Maybe they're getting over something and it's a personal goal or whatever, but you do see people up there that sometimes are just not prepared, and that you just right away you're like, okay, and you look for those people that are prepared, and then you pull them out.
I want to talk in depth a little bit as much as we can about what you do with now more, with more of your niche client, 40, 50, 60-year-old woman. You kind of mentioned it before, but what was that catalyst for you that led you down this path?
That's a really good question. And it really makes me think a little bit about that. And I would say that my mom suffers from bad osteoarthritis. And she was in the time period when they were doing the Women's Health Initiative, which was when women in the 90s were taking Premarin, which is hormone replacement therapy. It was estrogen, and it was made from the urine of female horses. And Premarin was the thing. Everybody was taking it for hot flashes and night sweats and all that menopausal symptoms, and it was working, and people were feeling good. And then they discovered that it may cause cancer, so they yanked everybody off it. And then I remember my mom started having flashes again and just going through some of those symptoms. And as we age and we lose our hormones, estrogen specifically, we lose bone mass. So, because estrogen protects our bones and keeps them strong while we're young and, still making a lot of estrogen. But once we stop making it and it starts dropping off in the midlife years, we're susceptible to arthritis and osteoporosis and brittle bones and those things. And, watching her kind of go through that, it made me think, well, I don't want that to happen to me. And as she's a rock star, I mean, you'd never know that she has bad arthritis. She always has a smile. She always looks happy. She's almost 80 years old and still has, still cognitively healthy and mobile and all that. But, I'm like, I don't want that to happen to me. I don't. And you see elderly people hunched over on walkers, or they need support. And my mindset has always been, I want to live long and strong. That's like one of my little phrases. And I decided once I started getting perimenopausal symptoms, probably within the last couple of years, really at 55, probably around 53, I would even say in my early 51, I was fine. And then probably 53, I started feeling like a little stiffness, achy joints, little fatigue, not jumping out of bed in the morning, a little slower, just, maybe forgetting where I sit down to send an email and you're like, who was I going to email again? Like things like that. And those are all symptoms. And I just decided that, I want better. And that's when I decided to do my blood work and test my hormone levels to see where I'm at. I got with a doctor now who specializes in bioidentical hormone replacement. So I just started doing that about a month ago. I'm a month into my therapy, and I want to pass this on to all women because so many women don't know about it. Like they know about menopause and perimenopause, but they don't understand what's happening, why is it happening, and what can you do? Or do you just have to endure it? And this is it. We're getting old, and this is how we're supposed to feel now. So I don't accept that. I always want to be the best version of myself. So that's why I created my program, Midlife Mastery, which is a 6-week course that I teach women. And we go through everything from nutrition, supplementation, exercise. We talk about hormones. We talk about replacement therapy. We talk about being mindful and just having mind balance and how to pull yourself out of anxiety if you feel like you're going down the rabbit hole a little bit. And we talk about things that affect our endocrine system and affect our hormone balance, from the air, foods, scented candles. I mean, it's amazing. Body lotions, makeup, it's unreal how many things are in our environment that affect our hormone balance. Did a lot of research and I practice what I preach, and now I'm teaching it to people. My son's 22, my daughter's 19, but even with him, making sure, because you hear about it on the news that young men are having low, sperm count, low testosterone already, and it's like, how is that possible? But it's a lot of it is the environment and the plastics and the things that we're exposed to all the time. And there are certainly other things too that point to that. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this or not, but there's definitely a certain shot that a lot of kids got recently, and it's definitely affected their long-term health. And these are things that are scary. He's in good health, but he's 22 and he's a little lazy sometimes. But I try to. And my daughter's 19, and she's a lot more with it because she's in the gym every day, and she's really focused on building muscle and being strong. And so it's interesting. But I'm like, I tell my son, I'm like, dude, you got to get in the gym. Like, you need to be doing something. Like, let's do something.
Start somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one of my, I don't want to call it fears, but one of my kind of things that I am nervous about is that even though fitness is getting more popular, I hope it's not a trend just of like going, we got to go to the gym, we got to get big, or we got to, do, whether you're male or female, whatever the trend is.
Right. And looking more to be like an influencer, or like you said, just be aesthetically pleasing to the eye for, for the gram, for the story, for the TikTok. But what I would love, what one of my goals is to not only to have the midlife mastery program because it's so important, but also at some point create a program for the younger woman, for the younger woman who may be late 20s, maybe just getting married and wants to start a family, into the woman maybe up to 40 years old or 38, something like that, and create a program there for them to understand that they should test their hormones at that age too. Like, don't just wait until you're in perimenopause to see how low your hormones are. Like, test them when you're younger, because then you have a baseline, right? Then okay, in my 20s, my levels were here. I'm 35 now, and my levels are here. Like, like you could see that way there. If you want to do a hormone replacement therapy, you know what your baseline was. So if you could avoid a lot of perimenopausal symptoms if you can start a little hormone replacement therapy early and keep your levels here versus watching them drop off and then trying to do the therapy to bring them back up, which can be done. It just takes a little bit of time. Your body's got to adapt to it. But, if you started younger, when you're done having children, to just keep yourself very, very low dose would probably be just enough to keep you so that you don't have to deal with some of the night sweats and the hot flashes. You don't have to wait for them to happen. And then you're kind of backpedaling to try to figure out how to get them to stop. So I think that's key. And I have worked with some of my clients' daughters who are like early 20s. A couple of them were like graduating from college and they put on some weight from drinking and partying and just not eating right and all that. And now they're in the workforce trying to find a job and helping her. She lost weight. I had her in the gym working out. And, I see her sometimes when I'm at Equinox training because she's there periodically. And, she's like, oh, this is because of you. But the point is that now she'll have that lifestyle forever. That is the key, is to start them young so that they stay that way throughout their lifespan and set them up good so they're not partying and drinking a lot of alcohol, which is terrible for us as women, raises our risk of breast cancer. It's it's harmful to us now at this point in our lives. Well, I mean, it's a toxin. It's always harmful. But when I get with women now that are in this midlife space and they tend to drink more, it's a little bit of work to try to wean them and get them off. I mean, when I say that to them, they kind of look at me with I always say the furry eyeball, but they always, the ones that I can get to like make the changes and do the work are always on the other side going, I feel so much better. I sleep better. I have more energy. My skin looks good. I mean, alcohol dries our skin out. It's just going to age us faster. It's not good for our internal organs. It's not good for estrogen metabolism. It's just, there's just not good for your liver. So, but people like their alcohol.
Yeah, it is amazing.
That's a tough one.
I think that might be the toughest one. I mean, it's literally ingrained in our, our culture and into our history, possibly, I don't know, maybe into our DNA and genetics somehow of like, whatever ways, but like it's interesting that people will knowingly poison themselves. This podcast is sponsored by Smoking Gun Coffee, a veteran-owned coffee company that strives to give back to those in need. Don't forget to use code TWR10 for a 10% discount at checkout.
And, I have clients say to me, well, I'm going to a dinner or a party, and if I don't have a drink, my friends will give me such a hard time. And I'll say to them, like, are you a grown adult? Like, how old are you? Like, and you're worried, you're still letting people shame you into things? I'm like, just tell them that you're on this, you've changed course a little bit. You're on a healthy program, and you just need them to support you, and you're going to have Pellegrino and lime tonight. I said, and the more you do it, the more they'll just accept it. So... But yeah, it is a tough one. People shame people. What do you mean you're not having a drink? Just have one. It's not, just one's not. I'm like, then my friends don't do that to me anymore. They know what I'm all about. So, but
to kind of close things out, just a few kind of very vague, maybe because we don't have a whole bunch of time to dive into these things, but maybe a little general on maybe your top one or two do and do not of like getting to, what you tell people, hey, do these things and or don't do these things in regards to, hey, let's fix these midlife problems? What would those be?
I would say always when I start with someone new and I talk to them, first question always is blood work. Have you had blood work done? And most people have had like the typical metabolic panel where you do red blood cells, white blood cells, kidney health, liver health, all those things. But most women never have their hormones tested because doctors don't ask them to do it, and most women don't know to do it because I'll ask them and like, no, I don't know what that is. No one's ever asked me to do that. I don't know. And then they go and they ask their doctor because I told them, and the doctor's like, no, we don't need to do it. It's not necessary. Of course, your hormones are low. You're 50 something years old. But like, I'm always perplexed by that because I'm like, a doctor should be like, yeah, let's test them. There are certain things maybe you should be doing that you're not doing to help keep yourself feeling good so that you age well. And they don't say any of those things. They just sort of like brush it off like, no, don't, that's not necessary. So the first thing is get your hormone blood work done. And if your doctor says they won't do it, push back a little bit and say, hey, doc, I want to know this stuff because it's important. And if they still give you a hard time, find another doctor that is open to it. And if not, and they do work with me, I have an alternate way for them to get the script so they can go to the lab and they can get it done. So that's the first though, is you got to know what's going on. That's going to tell us so much of the story. And then the second piece is they're usually not eating enough protein. They're usually not eating enough, period. But I always look at like protein. I ask them what a typical day of eating is like so I can see, and the protein intake is usually really low. I hear things like, well, I get up in the morning and have an egg. I'm like, okay, well, one egg is 6 grams of protein. So that's not enough. And, and a lot of them just, they don't know. And I'm not mocking them at all. They just don't know, which is why I have a business, because it's what I do. So it's really looking at hormone levels and then seeing what their protein intake is. And of course, there's a lot of other things I do with them, but those are the first two things. And the two don'ts I would always tell them is, don't drink a lot of alcohol. It's not doing your body any good, especially as a woman. Like I said, it raises our risk of many types of cancers, but primarily breast cancer. I mean, the science is there. You can Google it and read about it. And I would say the second one is don't just sit around all day. Like, you got to get up and move around. Even if a woman just says, okay, I'm going to eat a little more protein, drink some water, and just take a walk for 25, 30 minutes every day. I mean, that would be great, and then we can add in the other things. But those, being sedentary is brutal. Drinking alcohol is terrible. And then you got to know what's going on inside your body if you want to really make some good health changes that are long lasting.
For sure. I think great advice and great, really for anybody, right? I mean, that's kind of what it is. I mean, general health is pretty general for everybody. I mean, once you get into the specifics of, knowing your hormone levels, you can maybe dive deeper into certain things, but I mean, it's just do what humans have been doing for a long time and not what they've been doing for the last, short period of time, and you'll probably be pretty good. But I really appreciate you coming on here.
Yeah, thank you. I want to tell you quickly too about what I have several male clients, but I have one male client who's early 50s, and we started working together, and he dropped about 30 pounds just from lifestyle stuff that we did, getting him back in the gym, eating right, sleeping better, tracking his sleep with an Oura ring. And, there's a lot of things I recommend to people, but he got to a point and I just said, hey, you know what? I'm like, you haven't done like your testosterone levels. Let's get them checked. And he did. And we looked at it and I'm like, you're definitely on the lower end of the range, which is not good. I said, I really suggest you talk to this doctor. I'm aligned with a few different hormone doctors. And I said, I think you should talk to this one and have a consult. You don't have to do anything, but you might want to think about testosterone replacement therapy. And I think he's about 3 months in now, and he's doing testosterone, pregnenolone, melatonin, vitamin D, and a couple other things. But he's like, his transformation pictures every time he sends them, I'm like, oh my God, and he's like, I have energy, I'm strong in the gym, he's like, I sleep great, I feel amazing. So, like, that is just a true testament of doing all the things you can naturally, naturally meaning lifestyle stuff, cleaning up your life, and then saying, okay, you know what? I think I want to now look at what's the next step. How can I make myself even that much better?
For sure. Yeah. And it's cool that we live in an age that the technology is there, like you're talking about the rings, Avo Whoop. I mean, there's
Okay,
different
yeah,
things out there now that can kind of tell you your daily metrics and stuff like that. And then as far as like hormone testing, I mean, that's 100 years ago, 200 years ago, whatever it may be, that's unheard of. That's crazy idea, right? That you could just, and even crazier today is that someone will come to your home and do it, right in your house if that's the way you want to do it.
I know.
And a couple days later, the results can be on your phone. So it's so accessible. It's pretty affordable. I think these things can if you don't know, it's like, oh, that's going to be crazy to do, but it's really not that bad. Like I said, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing some stuff tonight. It was great getting to chat with you. I'd actually love to have you back on and kind of dig deeper into
Love
some of
to.
these other things.
Yeah, totally. That'd be awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Danielle.
Absolutely. And if you want to, before we have to leave, kind of share your socials or any website or anything like that, you can do that.
Sure. My Instagram is at Linda Stevens Fit, FIT. Stevens is STEPHENS. So it's at Linda Stevens Fit. That's probably the best way to reach me. And my website is Linda M, like mom, lindamstevens.com.
If you're tired of searching for a coach or trainer, somebody who knows what they're talking about and has experience, make sure you go check out the new Coach's Corner on